Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I'm your host, Jessie Brown, and I am very honored and excited, as always, to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 162. If you missed my last episode, number 161, I shared with you guys 5 different ways and things and tools that you can utilize to improve your mental health. The goal of that episode is to provide you with some tactics in some ways in advance so we can be more proactive in our mental health. I don't know about you guys, I have definitely been feeling like my mental health seems out of control a little bit and a little unpredictable. And so I think having things in place that we're doing consistently allows us to just get as prepared as possible to be able to tend to ourselves. And it's also one of the deepest forms of self-love when we're able to cater to ourselves in advance. So if you haven't checked out that episode, I highly encourage you to, because I definitely think that there is at least one thing in that episode that could improve your life. For today's episode, number 162, I'm going to be chatting with you guys all about the power and the significance of committing to less stuff, which I know up front sounds really weird, very unlike me. If you know me, that probably sounds very out of character, but I'm going to dive into the why of that and why that is actually more powerful. Before I do, if you notice the background behind me is different, I'm in the same room, it's the same, but it just looks different. I am kind of figuring out the layout that I want my office to be, and I'm kind of in like a transition phase right now where I don't really know what I want my backdrop to look like. So know that if you watch video, is going to look a lot better soon. My plant is actually falling over right now. I need to put some kind of stick in there. If you're listening to audio, there's a monstera behind me and it is kind of swooping down. So anyways, nonetheless, just anticipate that my background is going to improve over the next couple of episodes, because I was getting tired of it looking the same and I was ready to upgrade what that looked like. But nonetheless, let's dive into today's episode. So, I don't know about you guys. I would suspect if you are a listener of the show, you probably deal with this to some degree. I'm guilty of committing, going for, chasing a million things at one time. I'm better at this now than I ever was because of the things that I'm going to share with you guys. But guilty of overcommitting to things. Recognizing that a part of me feels most seen, heard, validated, understood, appreciated, whatever, when I tie that to high achievement. I allow my external results to dictate how I view myself, or at least I did. And I definitely still do in some ways, but definitely not to the degree that I used to. And so this led me to committing to way too many things. And as I was sitting here thinking about this episode, a very vivid memory came up for me of when I experienced this for the first time. So as I've shared with you guys many times, I have done group coaching with Next Level University. I went through the program twice. I've now been the assistant coach for 4 rounds of it. And on the first session that we do together, we always share who we are, what we do, etc., a couple other questions. And I remember when I was in the first round of group coaching, I was introducing myself. And I'm like, oh God, I wear a lot of hats. And I was going through all the things that I did. At the time, I was a counselor. I was doing Young Living. I was running my business. I was studying to be a yoga teacher. I worked part-time at a golf course. I was doing all these things. And as much as those things did fill my cup, I was just stretching myself so thin. And so I want you right now contemplating for yourself, are you the type of person that kind of does the same thing? Are you someone who commits to a lot of things? Sorry, I forgot to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I hate when I'm interrupted by my phone. So I just had to do that super quick. But I want you assessing for yourself, what is kind of your relationship with commitment to things? Are you someone who feels like you can't commit to things, or are you someone who feels like you're always doing a million things at once? And the reason that I wanted to share this is because it is so much better to invest 100% of yourself and your energy and your passions into 1 or 2 things than to be divvying up 20% of you into multiple different areas, which is what I was doing. And I think that we need to ask ourselves why it is that we feel the need to have all these things. I think in hindsight at the time, I was trying to figure out what I was passionate about. And so I was just trying to do all these things to see which one kind of landed, which one felt good. There was definitely like a need to make money at that time. There was a need to fill a void that was kind of sitting there. And whenever I was in the quiet or I wasn't working or doing something, I was left with my traumas that I had suppressed. And so that was definitely a component of it. And so I think we all have underlying reasons of why we overcommit to things or why we undercommit to things. But I wanted to share with you guys today the power of committing to less stuff. This idea came to me originally. I thought of the group coaching example after, but this idea came to me, it was roughly 2 weeks ago, and I was out for a run. And running has been my new found love, which in hindsight can probably sound annoying to say, like, I love running, but like I do. It clears my head. I love how I feel after I run. I love how my body feels. It forces me to get outside. So I hate the word force. It encourages me to get outside. It is something that I've always told myself I am not good at. And so I knew I wanted to commit to focusing on my health better. And I wanted to commit to one thing. And as I was running, I recognized how consistent I was being. Every morning I was getting up and I was going for a run. And I had thought back in the past when I was trying to do yoga and I was trying to weight train and I was trying to do mobility and I was trying to do all these different classes. And looking back now, the reason that I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted is because, I guess the reason I wasn't maximizing my potential in those areas is because I was trying to do too much. A lot of times we do this with hobbies. I see this all the time with hobbies, where we'll start like 5 different things and we don't actually get to a place where we're good at it because we've just tried to take on too many things at once. When I first started my business, Meraki, I knew that I wanted to make and sell things, but I wasn't committing to like one specialized thing. And so I wasn't able to really hone in on my craft because I was doing so much stuff. I think that this was a huge theme during the pandemic where everybody was like, I'm bored. I just need to find something to do. I'm going to do these 500 things in the hopes that one of them lands. What I want you and encourage you to do is to assess for yourself, how many things am I investing my time into right now? Is it worth me investing all the time that I am into these things? Or could I see more results by being more intentional of where I'm investing my time? Instead of spreading yourself so thin, what is one thing that you can go all in on? The title of this episode is The Power of Committing to Less Stuff. I think in hindsight, we think that if we say we do all these things, it makes us appear a certain type of way. Even on that group coaching call, there's a part of me that's like, ooh, like, girl, you probably sound so cool. But in actuality, I was not really getting results in any of those areas because I wasn't able to fully commit to one or the other. All it was doing was taking up my time and causing me to burn out. Once I started to shift my focus and took a step back from a lot of things, and so my podcast was like the one thing that I was like, I'm going to go all in on this. And that's what I decided to do. And that's the only reason that I've been able to be so consistent with my podcast, is because I stepped away from doing so many other things. I think that it's okay in the beginning to, like I said, try out multiple things to see what you like. But I do think that it's very, very impactful to choose one thing and to stick with it. Do not diminish the significance of trying to master something. I truly believe that this is a large reason why businesses fail. They don't know who their ideal client is, what their ideal niche is, who it is they're talking to, what it is they're actually focused on. I'm sure you've experienced that before, where maybe you walk into a restaurant and you're like, this menu has Mexican food on it and it has Italian food on it and it has like Greek food on it. This makes no sense. They don't know what their niche is. Whereas instead, if they concise that and they mastered 1 or 2 things on that menu, and then they were able to attract the ideal people that would enjoy those things, that business and restaurant is going to be so much more likely to succeed. Same analogy with restaurants. When you go in and there's just like this 6-page menu, you're like, whoa, what is it that you specialize in? What is like your thing? So many of us, I think, for lack of better analogies, do that with our life. We fill our life with all these pages of things, trying to figure it out. I want you to know that it's okay to take time to figure out what that thing is. If you have a 9-to-5 job and this is more of like a hobby thing, maybe you go to a class to see if you enjoy it before you fully commit to it. Maybe you ask a friend, maybe you read a book. There's so many ways that we can begin to hone in on the things that are actually impactful. Even just down to our day-to-day habits. I think, so when I first started, again, that round of group coaching, we were tracking 12 habits. 12 habits every single day. If you've never tracked habits before, it's nearly impossible, and it is very, very overwhelming. They decided to then shift that to be just 3 habits, sticking to 3 things every single day that you can commit to. And again, this episode's kind of talked about like habits and business and goals and whatever. Focus on just 3 things that you can master every single day. 3 things that you will not miss. That helps to build momentum. That helps to show yourself that you can commit to things. So many of us start things and then we don't commit and we fall off, and then we end up feeling like shit because we're like, I don't see results. I'm not happy with where I'm at. I'm just going to give up. What if the reason you're not seeing those results is because you're only giving 20% because that's all you have the capacity left to give because you're stretching yourself so thin? So again, I encourage you to think of 3 things that you can do every single day to commit to. Some things that I do every single day: move my body for 30 minutes, meditating for roughly 10 minutes, and listening to a podcast or audiobook. Those are 3 things that I'm committed to every single day. I am now tracking over 20 habits. This has taken 3 years to get to this place. And there's days, many days, I honestly couldn't tell you the last time that I got a 100% day where I hit all my habits. The point of it and me sharing this is because I just see this time and time and time again where we try to do all these things and we don't get results and we give up, and it crushes our self-belief, it crushes our self-esteem. But what if we're just overcomplicating it? I think that we do that a lot in life. We overcomplicate it in the mindset of how are others going to perceive us. I think we feel the need to kind of puff ourselves up and make ourselves look good in perception of others. But wouldn't you rather master and hone in on 1 or 2 things that you're super passionate about and really improve them and then get the results you actually desire, versus trying to chase all these things to have these personas and to look cool to other people? So I just thought that this was an important concept that I wanted to share with you all. And I think it's important that we look at our life holistically. It is important that we don't just focus on one thing or the other, because I think if we neglect our health, our wealth is going to take a toll. If we only focus on our wealth, our relationships are going to take a toll. Our health is going to take a toll. And so it's important that we find a way to be balanced in the things that we're doing and starting small. I didn't start with running every single day. I started with going for walks, and then I would run for a couple minutes, and then I would stop. I would miss days in between. And there's still days that I miss in between. I've not been perfect with this at all, but it's building that momentum and building the identity around things so that you're able to show up and it becomes more second nature. But if we're doing too many things, we're not able to be consistent. I think it's important that we begin to prime our mind and rewire our mind to be, I'm the type of person to do these things. When we go to bed at night and we don't accomplish those 3 things, our mind is kind of cueing to us like, hey, we missed today. How can we show up better tomorrow? Last thing I'm going to share is circling back to the habit tracking. I think tracking your habits is one of the best things that you can do. In hindsight, in the beginning, I hated it. I hated it because it showed me the truth of where I was missing. It showed me where I was not being consistent. But over time, I began to build a better relationship with that, because at least if I can see where I'm not showing up, I can show up better tomorrow. At least then I have the awareness of why I'm not getting certain results. Because if you can see in front of you, okay, I haven't worked out in 3 weeks and I'm feeling like crap about my body, well, that makes sense. You haven't been showing up and you've been breaking promises to yourself. And so if you ever want any kind of habit tracking system, let me know. I can send that over to you. Again, it is not mine. It was created by NLU. They also have an app called Optimal that they use to track habits, which is phenomenal. But if you want to start small, get a journal and write down your habits and put a check mark in there every single night before you go to bed. Again, this whole episode is about simplicity. Keep it simple, keep it small, but ask yourself, where am I spreading myself too thin? Am I overcommitting to so many things that I'm not focusing on the most important thing? Figure out what your most important thing is. If I do not do this one thing, I cannot get the results that I desire. Instead of, I'm going to do all these things in the hopes that I stumble upon the success that I have in my mind. That is the mindset that I used to live in. That is not the way that it works, and that is not going to be the most effective, most optimal way to get to your desired outcomes. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope, if anything, it gave you the permission to know you don't have to do 500 million things to be successful. In fact, it is keeping it simple that is going to lead you closer towards success than trying to do all these things that in hindsight are not worth the investment of your time and energy. So thank you guys so much. I hope you're having an incredible week, and I look forward to chatting with you all on Tuesday. Bye, you guys.